What's up, everybody? David Kurz here, coming to you again with the Real Talk Show and Podcast. You're going to catch us on our podcast, on Spotify, and iTunes podcast. And, of course, you'll catch us on YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere else that videos are shown. So I'm coming back to you today with Josh Forti in the house. If you don't know Josh Forti, look him up. Josh, F-O-R-T-I, on all kinds of social media platforms. The guy's a Facebook genius, Facebook groups genius. We brought him to the Real Talk conference last year and just confirmed with him he'd be happy to grace the stage again this coming year, 2019. So Josh is going to be on the stage at the Real Talk conference one more again to be able to talk to you guys and really, really drop some knowledge on you. So today, him and I have been working a little bit, and we're about to change the game in the real estate space. So you guys stay tuned for that. I'd be happy to tell you all about it after it works for me. But we'll get that going. So let me tell you what my show is about. And as you guys know, that I never ever tell people what the show's about too much in advance. So the show is an entrepreneurship show, right?
All right. Yeah.
But what we like to focus on is the hiccups in business, what happens to you in business, what other people call failures, right? Now, I'm going to tell you the rule on the Real Talk show.
All right, let's
we don't use the word failure.
Don't use the word failure. All right,
so
no failure.
That's the F word for us.
That's
right?
okay.
Okay. Don't use the word failure. We took it out of our vocabulary because we don't believe in failure. Because if you are a true entrepreneurship, you may have faced adversities and hiccups in your career.
For sure.
But you stood back up, you hustled it up, you ran to the floor, you did what you had to do. Sky's the limit or not the limit, and you did what you had to do to grow out of it, right?
Absolutely.
And you know, business cannot happen without having its ups and downs. But I'm very passionate about the word failure. I'm very passionate about people saying the words like fail forward.
Yeah.
I'm sick of that. Like, we're telling an entire generation to fail because they'll learn from it.
Yep.
No, man, it's about the usage of words, right? So I always make this joke. You know, what you say out loud, you put out to the universe gives back to you, right? Whatever you believe your universe is, right? And I have a joke that I often start this with, and I say, when I was younger, I was a player, right? And I looked up to God, and we had a private conversation, and I said, I want you to surround me with beautiful women my entire life. God said, no problem. Give me a wife, 4 daughters, a single mom, and 2 single aunts. I'm surrounded by beautiful women, ladies and gentlemen. But he didn't exactly, it wasn't what I had in mind, but it's what he had in mind, right?
Absolutely.
So the thought process is we have to stop using the word. We have to stop thinking it's okay to fail, to have to learn. You don't have to fail to have to learn. You can go into mentorship.
Right.
You can, hiccup less. Less adversity. You can learn more. You can study, right? You can be somebody's understudy. Come on, take it back thousands of years. You couldn't even be a swordsmith without being an apprentice for years and years and years. And most of the time, you couldn't even be the master until the master died.
Yep.
And that's what made you the master, person. And then you got an apprentice. So and today's day and age, I think too many people are getting into business without understanding business.
Yeah.
They're getting into business without understanding finance. They're getting into business without understanding the pitfalls of business and how to avoid them, or at minimum, reduce the amount of pound that it gives them when it does happen, right?
For sure.
The reducing the risk of it, right?
For sure.
So tell us about your business, the size of your business, when it started, how it started. Give me the synopsis.
Oh boy. Well, guys, I'm Josh Forti, and we do not use failure on this show, so I've never failed. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? I started.
Different feeling.
Oh man, it's so great. So you must be super anti Gary Vaynerchuk of fail forward, just mess up and fail on purpose.
I like Gary, man, but we can't keep telling a generation to keep falling apart.
So I started into entrepreneurship about almost 3.5 years ago now. Got into the social media game, and I was in insurance sales beforehand. So life and health insurance and door to door. So we weren't exactly technology advanced at the time. So my boss, who I love dearly, she's awesome, and we're still friends to this day. But she literally had me go door to door to business owners because we were doing business. Knock. Oh, yeah. And when people say that people will slam the door in your face, that is a very literal term, right? Like it happens a lot. So I got my experience in sales that way. Did that for about 1.5 years or so. Decided I wanted something a little bit different. Decided to try to go out on my own and started on social media. And so while I was still working that job, I ended up buying a training program, getting involved with someone that knew what they were doing, like you talked about, mentorship, and grew up for the last 7 months that I worked there. I started growing Instagram followers. Grew up about 150,000 followers on Instagram, and ended up quitting the job and going full-time into social media. Had success on Instagram, partnered up with someone that was also my age. We became business partners. And about a year and a half into him and I working together, me starting this journey, we had done several million followers on Instagram, grown, managed for clientele and for people that had a really good understanding of the social media platform, but had no idea how to make money, right? Like we didn't know what it is. That was about, I should take that back, about 7 months in. So about 7 months into us starting the company, we started figuring out how to make money. We started to learn about marketing and online marketing and what that all entailed. So about a year and a half into that business, my business partner and I, nothing bad to say about him. We just didn't see eye to eye on where the company was going. So I ended up selling out to him and started into Facebook, right? Started kind of shifting to do a multi-platform, understanding how social media worked in general, not just like how to beat the algorithm on Instagram, right? A better, more diversified understanding. Doubled down on that. I grew up an agency in that space, and then really like learned so much like in that thing. Just work with clients all over the.
When we first connected, you were big into promoting and marketing groups.
Yeah.
Which in our space, in the real estate space, I think is not being utilized enough, which is why I reached out to you and I said, man, you got to be on the stage.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to have a Facebook group. It's another thing to monetize.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Very, 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 very different thing. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I always feel like I see like Instagram models and workout fitness pros. I mean, how many workout fitness pros?
So many.
On Instagram. And I realized you got 50,000 or let me get 500,000 people following them, 1 million people following, 2 million people, and they're broke.
And the same thing is true with Facebook groups. So after I transitioned out of the Instagram space, I started a Facebook group at the time. So I had a few thousand members in it. Ended up growing that Facebook group to about 35,000 members. And what's so interesting to me in the Facebook group space is so many people think that you have to have like a huge group in order to start making money with it, right? Like they're like, oh man, once I have 10,000 members or 20,000 members. And the reality is if you don't know how to monetize now, like you're not gonna start making money at 10,000. Like it's so much harder to manage like 10,000 people, 20,000, 30,000 people than it is to manage 1,000. Like people don't get the fact, like the amount of content that you have to put out there, the timing has to be just right, how you interact. Like now you're messing with 30,000 minds rather than like 1,000. And so starting right away from the beginning and understanding how to monetize and how to grow is like crucial and key.
And developing content very early in the game,
Yes.
right? Because I think a lot of people are selling coaching programs without having a coaching system, right?
Or having a coach themselves. Like they've never even gone through a coaching program. It's like, yeah, right.
You know, because you were just born coach.
Right,
you know?
right.
And I find it that a lot of people try to do that, and that's where they fail, right? They'll go and they'll build 100,000 people who are following them, or whatever the case is.
For sure.
And they try to sell this platform, this coaching platform, or whatever the case is, and then all of a sudden 1,000 people sign up in interest, right? And then they have nothing to provide.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It's about scaling very early on, and that goes in your business, goes in any business, goes in social media, goes in anything. When we opened up this real estate company, I'm a bit of a lunatic, so don't follow my lead. You know, what I should have done was get a small space, 1,000 square feet, then grown to 1,500 square feet, so forth.
Right.
But I opened up this company with 5 people and 3,000 square feet.
Holy moly.
Right? And then about 3 months later, we had 20 people, and the next door space became available, so we took that because we didn't want anybody next door. So we ended up with 6,000 square feet and 20 people, right?
Holy moly.
So what happens is I'm a big believer in, someone who's pushed into a corner will fight his way out or cry it out, right?
For sure.
And I'm a fight my way out of the corner kind of guy, right?
Yep.
So that's why I don't accept the F word.
Right.
So
no failure.
there was no excuse on why I couldn't succeed. So we grew, and now we're 102 agents, right? And there's plenty of space for everyone. I could have 400 agents and still appropriately use the space and be able to work out of here.
That's awesome.
And I think that I couldn't have done what we did to grow without having an appropriate plan.
For sure.
Right? So I'm not telling you go out there and get a 50,000 square foot warehouse. And,
with agents,
think about a catering company.
Right.
But you have to have a plan, right? So we did have a plan. Before we took the lease on the second space, we're like, okay, great, we'll take it, but what's the plan? Right? Because this place was raw, we had to build it out.
Right.
And the build out didn't happen right away. We had to work to it,
right.
And honestly, we just really came up with a business plan to scale appropriately, right? And we grew faster than we ever imagined.
Yeah.
And we continue to grow that way. So just the way you're saying, like selling a mentorship program, a coaching program, and not having an actual program in place, that's a problem.
Yeah, and I think that what happens when you do have a system in place is it becomes much easier to sell it, because people, like, we live in a media consumption society, right? Especially it's social media, right? And so when you have this audience and you want to start monetizing it, if you just go out there like, hey, I have a coaching program, like, if you have a really loyal following, which most people don't, but if you did, like, yeah, you might get some buyers. But if you're just like a typical person, like, I mean, I follow people online, you do, like, you're not just going to bite just because someone has it out there. Yeah. But if all of a sudden you have a plan in place and you start putting out content that like reflects that plan, and you're like, hey, this is the system that we use, this to this to this to this, and they can visualize that, they see that process, and then all of a sudden they're going to buy like wildfire. And I know one of the best presentations we ever did was when we did just that. Like the whole week beforehand, we started like going over the system that we were going to be teaching, like what we did, and went through the entire process. And we had so many people show up. It was our best conversion rate, best show up rate, everything, because we took that content, we took that system that you're talking about, that plan, and we laid it out there for them to see and understand. And then they were in right there. I mean, like they just bought in just like that. And that's so crucial if you want to be able to move forward. People see it, and now you have a plan of action to actually go through. Because like I've done a coaching program that we threw together. I remember this was a learning experience, definitely not a failure. It was a learning experience where there was a bunch of people that came to us and were like, hey, there's seven or eight of them. And they're like, hey, we'll pay you. They're like, we want you to teach. And I was like, all right, cool, sounds good. I mean, there were multiple grand a pop, like a sweet, easy 20, 30 grand. And we came in, didn't have the system in place, didn't have the training platform in place, didn't have anything. And so like every week the coaching call would come and we go, and I'd be like scrambling and putting stuff together and building.
Trying to put something together.
Right. Ended up having to do like twice the length of the program just to make sure that they got their money's worth, worked 4 times as hard as I should have, only because we didn't just have the system in place. And once we did, like you work a quarter of the time once it's in place.
Having the system in place is not that hard to do.
It's not.
Right? Like if you have a weekly coaching call, plan out what you're going to talk about for 52 weeks and then build on that.
Yep.
Right? Build on each week or build a quarter at a time,
yep.
However you want to do it. But like I'm the guy who will write out 52 and then build on all of them over a weekend.
Yep.
It really doesn't take that much time.
It doesn't.
You know the content, if this is what you're good at, right?
Hey, right, and that's the thing. Like so many people are out there trying to coach without actually being good at it. Right, like go out there and do it. And I know, like for example,
real estate coach that's never sold real estate.
Right, exactly. And for example, like if you don't know something is going to work or whatnot, go test it. Like we just had a meeting over there. It's like we're going to go test this. We're going to prove the concept. We're going to go through and actually do it. And then once you have that in place, now you know what they're going to come in contact with. Now you know what those next steps are. Get a big whiteboard, right? Like the one you have. I have a big 8-foot long one in my office, right? You go through, you draw out everything from start to finish. I always start with the end in mind, right? Here's the goal that they're going to get, work backwards from there, and then go. You don't even have to have all the content ready, but you got to have a plan. You got to have a system in place to go, this is what we're going to do, or else you're just asking for headaches. And not only do you not serve your customer and your potential buyer or buyer in this case, but you really just ruin yourself. I mean, like you ruin your personal life, you ruin your schedule, your stress is up. I mean, it's just super, super bad. Really yeah, it's super bad.
All right, so talk to me about maybe one hiccup that was your major hiccup over your entrepreneurship life.
Yeah. That
like really put you in bad space, put you in a bad position, and how you overcame it.
Oh yeah, okay. Best story ever for this. 2016, December 31st. It's like the 2016, 2017, I forget. But end of the year, beginning of the next one, we did a webinar. And it was the first webinar, this was years ago. I've done many webinars since, but the first webinar we ever did. And we hired a coach, right? We're like, hey man, this is gonna be great. Like we're new to the game. This was during the time when we were trying to figure out marketing, right? Like we didn't know what we were doing, but we knew webinars were the answer. And so we paid this dude a ton of money, like way more than we were capable of paying him. But we signed a contract, like this was our ticket to success, right? And we told the guy, we're like, dude, we're gonna have a lot of people show up for this webinar. And he didn't believe us, right? He was like, yeah, like most people say that, you might get 100, 100 registrations, you might have 30 people there. I'm like, no, dude, like, you don't understand. Like, we're gonna get a lot of people. I want to make sure this is good. We paid him. I mean, it was like tens of thousands of dollars, right? To like get this whole thing set up in place. Like, just, yeah, dumb, like rookie mistake, right? Like, we weren't ready for it. And he should have said no.
And you didn't shop around.
Right. Well, of course, right? We were just like, this is it. And so he should not have, like, he should have known we weren't this ideal fit. But needless to say, it happened. And so we go and we have this huge, massive network on Instagram. And this is when, like, Instagram's already pretty cheap to get, like, we had hundreds of thousands of followers that we were promoting this to. So we ended up getting like 2,700 people registered. And we only had room for 1,000 people on the webinar. There were 999 people that showed up for this webinar. All right, 999 people. And we had talked this thing up with, it was gonna be the greatest thing ever because we paid this guy tens of thousands of dollars to go and like help us build the whole thing out. And so we're like, all right, standard close rate is 20%, right? We got 1,000 people on there, that's $200,000. If we close half that, that's 100,000. If we close 5%, like that should be bare bottom minimum, like we're gonna make 50 grand. So that was the goal. So I got on there, it was like an hour and a half webinar. I did my whole thing. I went through the whole entire thing. And I get to the end and I pitch. One person buys. One person. So we made $1,000 and we received probably at least 200 emails. F you, go to hell. Like, you know, you're a scam artist. You're never going to make it. Worst time ever. Like, just the worst day of my life. Bawled my eyes out. So go, like, sleep that night, right? So, like, we've been working on this for like a month, right? Month and a half, like all in. This was our only project, like focusing on. And we put all our money, all of our resources into it. Almost bankrupted us, honestly. I mean, thankfully, like, I'm not married. My business partner at the time wasn't married. Like, we were just basically living on the couch, right? As we were going through this. We knew we were good at it, but we went through this, just bawled my eyes out that night, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and I was like, just throwing a ball at the ceiling, like, this is worth it, man. Like, is this worth it? And got up and did the
entrepreneur has that moment.
Every one of them.
And sometimes I joke with people when I go, when you're an entrepreneur, you have that moment once a week.
You're
like, oh my God, it's worth it.
Yeah,
you know?
a job sounds so nice right now.
Well, especially as a real estate broker owner, right? Man, sometimes I'm like, dude, I did sales. I could do sales. I'm
right.
to sales.
Right, exactly. Right. As a sales, you're like, I can sell. This will be so much easier, right? Yes. And and Russell Brunson tells the story how when he had his company prior, I think it was prior to ClickFunnels, he had like, I don't know, like 100 people or 200 people working for him or whatnot. And he remembers waking up in bed in the morning and just wishing he had a boss so that he could be fired, right? So that he could go back to bed. But he couldn't, right? And that's entrepreneurship for you, right? So I'm sitting there and like just throwing out the ceiling. So I did like the only thing that I knew how to do, right? Like we had a warm audience. I had a Facebook group of about, I think it was like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people at this time, right? And we went to Instagram. I took the email list of all 2,900 people. Oh, the best part, I forgot about this. The best part was it was a recorded webinar and we forgot to turn off the replay send out. So the 1,900 people that didn't show up got the replay of the horrible webinar. So it was just a complete mess. It was awful. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. My business partner and I went back and forth and there was some, tension, obviously. I mean, we just messed up.
Yeah, of course.
But we just got on there and we apologized. Like, no one does that, right? So I was like, dude, like, we can't be like, oh no, if you didn't like it, screw you. One person bought. Clearly it sucked, right? So, I mean, we went back to the guy that we bought it from. Unfortunately, like, we only got half the money back. So we were out over 10 grand.
And
we were out in the hole.
This guy's job was to build the webinar?
Yeah, to coach us through the webinar, right?
And scripts out for you.
Right.
Exactly how to lay it out.
Exactly.
So that you can close people.
Right. And it'd be one thing if it was one of those things where it's like, hey, you got a couple hundred people on there and it's testing. Like, I get, you got to test. Like, you're not going to have great conversions right away. But I'm like, we paid a lot of money, right? Like, it should have been good. Not that. So, but I wrote up an email script. I got on a live stream and, I apologized to him. I said, guys, listen, I'm really good at Instagram. I know social media. I suck at webinars, clearly, right? Like, and I just laid it out to him. And I would say that from that, we earned back the trust of a good amount of those people that showed up to the webinar, showed up to the next one. And so we offered, at the end of that, we basically said, look, guys, we want to provide a free Instagram training for you. It's not going to be webinar style. It's going to be actual, like, really good, like, here's exactly what it is. We're not going to pitch you at the end. Like, we want to make it up to you. We sent that out to the email list. I did that to the live stream. We apologized. And we probably got 30 or 40 messages from people saying, dude, like, you seriously earned my trust back. Like, wow, this is incredible. Like this, like that. And it's that mentality of, no, this isn't a failure. This is, how do I take this and overcome? Exactly. How do I take this and overcome it? Like, how do I respond? Right? When I'm laying there, literally my back on the ground, throwing the ball at the thing, What can I do? I can quit, or I can get up and go, this is all that I know to do, and I'm going to go out and do it.
And that's the whole point. I think there's a couple key things here that somebody can take away. Your webinar sucked, right?
Bad.
First thing you did was own up to it.
Yep.
Right? You owned up to it to the people that were depending on having a good webinar.
Yep.
Right? You owned up to it and you said, you know what, guys? Webinar sucked.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I promise you I'm good at this. I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to do a free training.
Yep.
Right? Come back, check it out. If that sucks too, then, just don't follow me anymore.
Right.
Because
I tried, right?
We're not a good fit.
Right.
But you owned up to it and you gave everybody the opportunity to trust you again. And you built from it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, of course, some guy out there is going to go, but that's the definition of fail forward.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And if they could just understand the concept that you were not willing to take failure as an option.
Well, and the thing is the interesting thing about the fail forward thing, I don't even think it's possible, right? And it's because failure only happens when you give up. Right. So if you just don't give up, like you can be beaten to the ground into a pulp, but if you just keep getting back up and never quit, like you don't fail.
Right.
Like it's impossible.
It's like every good fight movie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
Like
right. The inspirational. Right.
Fight movie you're into.
Right.
That's exactly what it's like. It's like every great fight movie, the star does not quit no matter how much they're pounded into the ground, no matter how much they're bleeding, no matter how much they've lost. They refuse to quit. And I think that that's huge.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly my point. What I tell people is failure does exist. It does exist.
Oh, absolutely.
And it exists when everything falls apart, you don't fight your way out, or you don't figure out a way to take advantage of the situation, and you just allow it to consume you and you quit.
Absolutely.
Which in my opinion is like dying.
Yep.
That's like dying. I quit. That's it. I'm not going to do anything anymore.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't die. Like, stay alive.
Stay alive and keep fighting for it. Right.
Fighting for what you want.
Because, like, at the end of the day, what's the alternative, right? Like, I have a podcast called The Think Different Theory, and, like, we talk about this a lot. Like, your mental game is everything, right? Like, how you choose to look at a situation. I have a shirt similar to this that says happiness is a choice, and, like, there's different emotions on there that I say, like, are a choice. Like, these things are a choice. The reality is the reality. Like, your back is against the wall. My reality was my webinar sucked. So you can either go and pretend it didn't happen and go, I'm done. I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to address the issue at hand and quit, right? Or just be like, okay, this is reality and I'm going to move forward, because life goes on either way. And let's be real, like the attention span of the American citizens, what, like 7 seconds? They've long forgotten about it, right? You know what I mean? Like if you just continue going back and going back and going back, like I can't tell you how many people I've met that like they failed. No, they continue. They had hiccups, right? They continued to try over and over and over again. And it took them a year, 2, 3 years. And then they had that $1 million webinar, or they had that $1 million business idea.
Face that adversity in your business and you overcome adversity.
Right.
That's basically what it is. That's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I'll tell everybody out there, guys, entrepreneurship is not easy.
No.
It's not easy at all.
And I wish that the narrative of social media didn't portray it like it is. And the one thing I will give major credit to Gary Vaynerchuk to, and I'm a big fan, is at least he's one of those people out there that's like, this is some hard work. Like you've got to absolutely love what you do, because it's going to be like just beat you down. And you got to go and go. And I've got his shoes on now, that clouds and dirt mentality of like, you're going to live here and you're going to live here. There isn't much of this in entrepreneurship. There isn't much of the middle. Like you're either on cloud 9 or you're down in the dirt. And you got to be okay with that. But how you choose to approach it, your mindset in everything that you do, like you look at the situation and go, this is the reality. Here's what I'm going to choose to do. And you go and do that, you can accomplish anything.
Well, everybody, follow him at Josh Forti, and you'll find him on all kinds of social media. Obviously, he's a social media expert. It was great to have you on the show. I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
Catch him at the Real Talk Conference in October 10th and 11th. You're going to see him on stage bringing you massive amounts of value. We're actually going to do another panel, but this time we're going to have you on the panel. We're going to have Howard Tager on the panel as well.
Nice.
And then I think we have one more person that's going to be on the panel that's in that Facebook real estate lead generation space.
Awesome.
So it's going to be a really interesting panel.
Be there. I'd love to meet you. Like, you got to show up. Last year was phenomenal, man.
Yeah,
like, major props to you. It was
Thank you, man.
phenomenal
Appreciate
event.
that.
Phenomenal event. Really
Thank
fun.
you. All right, last year was great. This year's going to be fantastic, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the Real Talk. Conference, Real Talk Show and podcast. We'll see you soon.